Welcome, Black Hollywood Live fans. Today on Justice is Served, we talk updates in the Philando Castile, Alton Sterling cases, and the Dallas mass shooting.
You are tuned into Black Hollywood Lives. Justice is served.
Welcome, Black Hollywood Live fans. You are watching Justice is Served. My name is Shaka Smith. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Shaka Strong.
And my name is Yemi Abayami. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ayemyems.
Wow, so we've had quite a roller coaster of a week of stories, right? I mean, last time we came in here, we were all shocked by the Alton Sterling case. We hadn't yet heard of Philando Castile, and I guess between now and then, we've had the Philando Castile and the Dallas mass shooting. It's been quite a week that's opened up a lot of racial wounds.
It has. I think we were all surprised to see how quickly things escalated after Alton and then Philando. Dallas shootings. I mean, it really caused a lot of people to start anew or renew the national conversation on race relations in the U.S. and police brutality and the interaction between police and the community at
Yeah, we had to start with that Michael Jackson, Black or White. And you remember that he had that They Don't Really Care About Us, and it's crazy to me how present those songs still are today.
Yeah, I saw a lot of postings online with quotes from the 1960s and even prior talking about the struggles of African Americans in relation to the system, in relation to police, talking about how, I guess, how, just feelings towards us and things like that were still relevant back then and are still relevant now.
Yeah, I think what we have now today is that we have social media, and so I think a lot of the things that we thought were healed just weren't exposed. We hadn't seen them, and now we're seeing things on Twitter, and as we know in the Philando Castile case, or the Facebook Live post that really alerted people to things, and having cell phones. And in that same vein, so we had this Dallas mass shooting, and on Twitter, shortly thereafter, we had a picture tweeted out about someone they were looking for. And there was a big issue about this because it turned out the guy, had nothing to do with it, and really it was because he was exercising his right to carry guns, to carry a concealed weapon in Texas. And so do we have to start looking at our open carry laws as something I think might be an issue here?
Yeah, it raised a really interesting question about the confusion that can arise when you have these open carry laws and then an incident of violence breaks out, shooting breaks out, and there's a question of what are people with their guns going to do? In the first place, are police officers going to confuse certain individuals exercising their right to carry their guns in the open? Are they going to confuse those individuals as suspects? And then what happens when you do confuse this individual as a suspect? In this case, the guy who was a person of interest, I mean, his photograph was posted to Twitter. It remained up for, I think, about 24 hours before it was ever taken down. And I remember even in an interview, someone was asking his brother, well, why was he bringing a gun to the protest in the first place? And the brother rightfully said it was his right to do so.
It was his legal right. And let's state, Texas is not in the minority. We have 31 states where you don't need a license or permit to have a concealed weapon to open carry, and 15 other states require some sort of licensing or permit. So it's not just an isolated problem with Texas, or I don't know if you call it a problem, but certainly for this case it was a problem. And I believe they were stating, I forget it was the mayor that stated, when you have gunfire, you're going to look for that person with a gun. Mm-hmm. And when you have 30 to 40 people in a crowd that are open carrying, then that might be an issue.
Right. It's an issue in terms of identifying who a potential suspect, a person of interest is. I think it also adds an additional layer of concern when you don't know how the people who are, rightfully asserting their right to carry a weapon, how they're going to react to an incident of violence, and does that kind of magnify the potential violence that can occur? And then thirdly, there's the issue with if you do see someone with a gun and automatically assume that maybe they are one of the perpetrators, is that person who's exercising their right, is their life now being put at risk because a police officer is automatically going to assume that they're the ones who was involved?
Yeah, and I think with social media also exposing these ills of society, but now does the Dallas Police Department have sort of a responsibility, because this picture's up for 24 hours and this guy's gotten a lot of blowback with Mark Hughes, I believe, and so he's gotten a lot of blowback and death threats and things of that nature. So what responsibility does the police department bear in terms of putting up responsible information, especially during an emergency crisis?
I think that raises a good question about wanting to get information out there immediately so that people can call in and help and see if they can help to identify this person of interest or a potential suspect. I understand how a police department is going to want to act expeditiously and quickly to get information out there, but I think that has to be balanced with being responsible about the information that you're putting out there and the accuracy of the information that you're putting out there. So I think that raises a good question. Hopefully in this instance, hopefully the police department made a good faith effort to identify this person of interest, and maybe it was a mistake that they got the wrong person. To the extent that it was intentional, I think that then maybe there could be some liability for intentionally putting someone's image up there that you know didn't actually commit a crime. But where it was unclear and you're identifying this person just as a person of interest as opposed to a suspect or accusing them of actually being the criminal, I think that police officers legally have some leeway there.
I just wonder if they have to exercise any reasonability knowing what is likely to happen when they put up a picture like that in that sort of turbulent time, what kind of blowback someone might get social media-wise that might translate into a real life-threatening situation.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine being an individual sitting there protesting against police brutality and then having my face plastered all over the news, suggesting that I'm a violent one when I'm just a law-abiding citizen.
Along with about 30 to other 40 people that
Along with other people, all other law-abiding citizens who are exercising their right to protest, exercising their right to bear arms, and then all of a sudden coming under this shadow and being accused of killing 5 police officers, which is a very serious accusation.
Yeah, and as a result, initially when the report started, they actually thought there was a coordinated attack of 2 or 3 people because there were so many people in the crowd with guns. And so I think it might warrant a look at open carry laws, or maybe at least some sort of restriction around rallies or marches, or
Right. I think in terms of having some sort of limitation, I think it would be helpful because that to me, having those open carry laws in those public spaces where people are rallying and protesting, and where where people are together, there's also just a chance for incidents to take place. I think they should look at that.
It would seem wise to restrict them from protest, so. Well, and obviously that kind of came about from the Philando Castile case, and we have an update in that we now know that it seems he was stopped because he was mistaken for a robbery suspect. And whether or not this stop was motivated by race has been a question. And it seems as though the officer says to the dispatch that Philando Castile has a wide-set nose which matches a robbery suspect.
Yeah, I had to laugh. I mean, I shouldn't even laugh at it but it's so ridiculous
it's laughable,
to me.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous to me. Apparently, this police officer was driving down the road, sees a guy who is black. I mean, really, the only description that the officers had about this robbery suspect, the person was black and had dreadlocks. And so, to me, is that enough to stop any person who is black or a certain complexion with dreadlocks? I think you probably need a bit more of a description to go on, whether it's what the person was wearing, what the person is carrying on them, which are all things that they didn't have in this situation. And so, to just use the alleged presence of a wide-set nose to effectuate your stop, to me, is absolutely ridiculous and cannot be a lawful stop.
And what's worse is that the robbery was 4 days prior and 2 miles away. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, well, there's someone that matched the description at the moment, so it's likely him because it's the time and place, but not the place and certainly not the time.
Certainly not the place, not the time. And again, you don't have those other identifying factors that limit the scope of who you can search. So if I describe a suspect as having a camouflage jacket and a red baseball cap, and who is black and with dreadlocks, then wearing a gold chain, I think to me that's significant enough that if you see someone matching that description, that maybe that stop is lawful. But if the only information I have is that it's a black person with dreadlocks, you cannot possibly subject every black person with dreadlocks then to a search. That's just unlawful.
Well, we do know that Geronimo Yanez and Joseph Kauser, the 2 officers, are on administrative leave, but their attorneys are saying that a brake light was also out, and that's partly what motivated the stop. But so far, the audio that we have, which has not been confirmed to be authentic yet, but it does seem to match in terms of the description of what's happening, that's the correct audio from this particular case.
And it seems like it's unclear whether the brake light was actually broken. It's possible that the officer used that as pretext for the stop when speaking to Diamond Reynolds and Philando Castile. But from what I understand, Diamond Reynolds says that the taillight wasn't even broken at all. So, which suggests to me that it might have been pretext for the stop, just to kind of pry and get some more information about these individuals in connection with the robbery.
Yeah, so we just have to wait and see how this unfolds, but certainly we hope no more violence spills out from what's taking place, and that at least there will be a very diligent investigation that's taking place.
Yeah, hopefully. And, and I think it also, going back to what we were talking about before about having the open carry laws and how that can confuse an investigation, it actually raised the question to me about how are police officers supposed to handle situations when someone says to the officer that I'm armed, I have a gun on me, I'm licensed, it's in the same location as where my wallet is. How are cops supposed to, how are they supposed to address that situation? And I thought that raised a very interesting question. Does the cop actually have to disarm the person? Does the cop take the gun? Does the individual remove the gun? How, at the end of the day, how are they to get their wallet or get their identification if the gun and the wallet and, say, the permit are in the same location?
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to be important going forward are these sort of, I know Hillary Clinton has called for sort of national standards for officers in training and how they deal with other people. And so I think that's what's probably going to need to happen, to have some sort of uniform reliability about where you are and what to do in the presence of an officer, whether you have a gun or legally, and how you go about approaching that situation.
Yeah, and I would think that even an individual who tells an officer that they have tells them that they're armed and tells them that they are licensed to carry, I would think that might set the officer at ease, because already the officer knows, okay, well, I have someone who's being forthright with me, who is sharing this information with me, who has now warned me. So maybe this isn't the type of individual that I need to be worried about. I mean,
exactly.
the ones that I think most officers are worried about are the ones that are acting a little bit dodgy and shifty, and they're keeping their hands hidden, and you don't know what they might have on them. But I would have thought that Philando Castile, offering this information to the police would have de-escalated.
Would have been a presumption of that you are actually a lawful individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right, and then I think I just have to add this also. What's protocol when you have a child in the back seat to shoot someone so quickly, so many times with a 4-year-old right there? To me, that doesn't suggest kind of it makes me question how much thoughtfulness was going into play, because you also now just put that child at risk
in harm's way
as well. So I think instituting certain types of standards for when you're making those stops are going to be really important.
Well, yeah, I do expect that we'll have some swift developments in the coming weeks. So I think the pressure's on in that case as well. Mm-hmm. Well, we do actually have a word from our sponsor, FreshBooks. So Yemi, take it away.
Well, small business owners, it's time to be honest about how you feel when dealing with your day-to-day admin work. Admit it, you can't stand it, and it's a total grind. The truth is, over 5 million small business owners felt exactly the same way until they discovered FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the dead simple cloud accounting software that's transforming how small business owners handle their paperwork. Invoicing, using FreshBooks to create and send an invoice literally takes about 30 seconds. There's no formulas or formatting, just perfectly crafted invoices every time. Online payments. Your clients can pay you online, which often means that you end up getting paid a lot faster. Project deposits. There's a super handy deposit feature so you can invoice for a payment upfront when you're kicking off a project. Insights. FreshBooks can even show you whether or not a client has looked at the invoice you've emailed. I know I always feel like I need to act expeditiously if I know that someone knows that I've read the email, so I completely get that. This is only a fraction of what FreshBooks can do for you. You owe it to yourself to feel the full effect of FreshBooks on you and your small business. For a 30-day free trial, just go to freshbooks.com/geek, that's GEEK, and enter Geek Nerd Tech in the How Did You Hear About Us section.
I love FreshBooks there.
Yeah, it seems like it can make invoicing, payments, deposits, all of that very much easier.
Well, thank you, FreshBooks. Well, moving on to the Alton Sterling case. So we had a curious development in the Alton Sterling case, at least curious for me. But we did hear that the officers have maintained that he was reaching for a gun. But we heard this in an affidavit for a search warrant to obtain the surveillance video. We'll get back to that. But what were your thoughts about them saying he was now reaching for a gun? Because we see the video, but there's still some kind of blind spot there.
That's the sad thing about this case. I think it's great that we have technology and we have videos that can either corroborate a police officer's testimony, and that can also undermine what the police officer says. The unfortunate thing, I think, in this case is that it's hard to exactly see where Alton Sterling's hands are at the time. And so I think it's even just in terms of getting a conviction against officers, it's hard unless you have clear, irrefutable evidence. And even sometimes when we have what we think is clear evidence, they end up walking anyway. And so in this case, it's hard to see in the video exactly where his hands are at the time, or at least for me, it was hard to see exactly where his hands are.
He looked, at least from my vantage point, that he was securely subdued, but to what degree might he have been reaching back?
Right. I think the gun was on his right side, which is on the other side. So when we're looking at the video from the store owner, we see the police officer's back, and then we see Alton Sterling, and then his right hand. It's kind of hard to see exactly what it's doing beyond his body. So if we're talking about what level of culpability is there for the officers in terms of are they going to be convicted or held liable, I think because it's not so super clear, it's going to be difficult to say whether or not Alton Sterling was reaching for this gun. And without that clear-cut evidence, I think ultimately the guys will probably not be penalized.
I don't know.
I might just be maybe I'm just being pessimistic.
Just hearing you say that made me angry. Well, the curious part about this was not the actual statement, but where I read it, it was in this affidavit to get a search warrant for the surveillance video, and it was my understanding that that night the surveillance video had been confiscated. And so we know the store owner has sued police. Abdullah Muflahi, I believe, he has sued the Baton Rouge Police Department for illegally detaining him and going in and confiscating the surveillance video illegally without a warrant. But now we have an affidavit that is looking to get a search warrant for the video.
The circumstances of the way the police obtained this video seems very, very shady to me.
Yeah.
Because if we believe what the store owner said, the police officers went onto his private property, seized the video, as you mentioned, without a warrant, and arrested, or at least detained him at the same time. And I don't know why you would need to detain a store owner that you have no reason to believe was involved in the commission of a crime. So you have that unusual aspect too. So it makes me wonder what are they doing, and why are they retroactively seeking a search warrant on a video that they've already seized? That suggests that they should have had a warrant in the first place before they seized it.
And do we know, are they maintaining that they don't have this video and they're getting a search warrant to obtain the video?
So it's unclear. I've read reports that the police department has it. I've read reports that the FBI has the video, since they're also conducting a civil rights investigation. So it's unclear who's in possession of the video. To me, it just seemed unusual that they would seize it immediately and detain the store owner without first having a warrant. I think we all know in terms of the Fourth Amendment and protection against illegal searches and seizures, you need a warrant before you can search and seize property. Of course, there are certain limited circumstances in which you don't need a warrant. For example, if I give you my consent to search my premises, or
which we know they didn't have, right?
Right. So they didn't have consent from the store owner. If you are checking the immediate surroundings after you've made an arrest, which the store owner was not arrested, he was simply detained. And also in the interest of public safety, you might conduct a search. But it doesn't seem like any of those circumstances were present here. I've read that if there's no privacy interest in the item that was seized, then maybe you don't need a warrant for that. So there is a question of whether is there a privacy interest in this video. I know you and I kind of see that differently. I was saying that, in terms of having a videotape of an outdoor space looking onto the street, which is a public space, is there a privacy interest in that video? I think you took a different.
Well, yeah, I
perspective
mean,
on that.
I just feel as the owner and maybe the location of the tapes, whether or not that might have been a violation of his privacy interest to come in and take those. But we'll see where that goes. It's curious. It's curious. I haven't heard of them confiscating something before and then issuing a search warrant for it retroactively.
Right. I think it's strange to issue this warrant retroactively, and I can understand seizing evidence where you're fearful that someone's going to destroy the evidence.
Yeah.
But there is no reason for that store owner to destroy the evidence in the first place. So to me, it's strange. But I am looking forward to seeing that surveillance video, seeing the surveillance from the dash cam.
Because I certainly think if we have that surveillance video, it may be a lot clearer as to what happened. Because we know that they're contending the body cams were out of place, and we really haven't heard anything about the dash cam video.
Right, and I think it's odd that it hasn't been released yet. I don't know how much time it takes to do that,
Well, we know that typically there's gonna be months or sometimes even over a year before they release this stuff. So, but I feel like the public's kind of outcry is going to expedite things.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well, we'll have more updates on that coming soon. We have now another update with rapper Troy Ave. He's finally released on $500,000 bail, but he's added a couple of conditions he's got to live up to.
Right. So his career is effectively suspended right now because one of the interesting provisions or terms of his bail is that he can't come near a stadium or an arena or a concert hall.
Which to me made no sense. Why do you think they included that provision?
Well, the shooting happened at T.I.'s concert at Irving Plaza, so maybe they fear that the circumstance could arise again where he runs into someone from a rival affiliation and
I just very rarely have ever, not at all actually, ever heard that as a circumstance of, because you were involved in shooting at a convenience store, you now must stay away from convenience stores while out on bail. But
I agree. I think it's unusual, and it's tough for him because he now has this $500,000 bail that he's just needed to pay, and in terms of even being able to make money to recoup some of that, he can't utilize his skills. That is, he can't perform. Yeah. He can't schedule any new concerts. He can't fulfill his contractual obligations that he might have had for concerts already in existence. Yeah. So it puts him in a tough position.
It's a weird way to handcuff someone, But and then he also has a couple other provisions as well, right?
Yeah, so he has a curfew. He has an 11 p.m. curfew, and he also the lawyer stated that he's not allowed to visit his children as well in the meantime. Yeah,
and he's got to wear the ankle monitor. Well, it's a big charge, attempted murder, and they're saying they could be possibly bumped up to murder. So, but I think some of those restrictions seem quite unusual.
They are unusual, but to his benefit, he's still releasing music. We understand that he released a track from the prison. Yeah. Part of which some of the lyrics might have been used to kind of tell his side of the story, and he has now also released a mixtape that is available for download. Well, so at least he's still trying to find ways to make money in the meantime while he waits to see what happens in this case.
And his attorneys alleged that the shooting video we had seen earlier, we played it for you guys on the show. He's saying that's only part of the story, and that he obviously didn't shoot himself or his friend, and they want Ronald McFadder, the bodyguard that died, to be remembered as a hero. So I guess more updates on that soon. Hopefully it's going to be difficult to maybe not violate some of those, so hopefully he's able to, stay clear and, see what happens coming up.
Yeah, it's in his best interest to do his best. Just stay home. Have people come visit you.
So, well, that's it for today. We certainly will have more updates for you guys next week. We have a lot of interesting stories to update you guys on. We thank you for tuning in. You can catch me, Shaka Strong, on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can catch me, Yemia by me, on Twitter and Instagram at @ayemyems.
Download us on iTunes. Give us 5 stars. We'd love to hear your comments and see your tweets. See you guys next week.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Christie, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live. Scipio, Instagram me @KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.